And like when you're talking like that, like you just said, simplicity, you're speaking into the things that people need to hear, but no one's smart enough to articulate it and be able to monetize it in this space. Does that make sense? It's hard. It's hard.
Well, again, I think people do want simplicity, but I think the bigger issue is we're living in an era where there's a crisis of trust, and when there's a crisis of trust, people are not inclined to accept something simple because it sounds too good to be true. And so that becomes the challenge, is exactly what you said, is people are looking for a consistency in delivery, that what somebody says is what they do, so that they can have trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I was speaking with somebody a couple days ago, and about an organization that does something similar to what I do. And they said, yeah, we paid them big bucks, but once they paid us, they didn't show us how to do it. And so in that case, that particular organization is kind of fizzling out.
So
Um,
there's probably some understanding that from a business point of view, you're giving this to people who can duplicate it and pay one time a fee to you, right? There's the secret sauce is in the sauce that you sell each time. So you're selling like when you deliver something, it's like a pizza. When it's eaten, it's gone, and you've now eaten up your intellectual property investment, and you're sharing it, but you're doing it knowing it can be reduplicated and shared, and you want that.
yeah,
Okay, so I know I asked you about your intellectual advances, so um, I guess maybe this isn't about money, is it?
no, it was the objective that I mentioned to you before. It's about the idea of being able to transform lives so that people can have a richer life, and and see themselves not spending and incurring the cost of interest. But to your point, there is a unique element of what I've created, and that is there is an algorithm that some of the stuff that I had to work through to figure out, somebody can just simply use it repeatedly as a way of making the process more efficient. And that idea of don't be greedy, if it catches on and people understand the principles behind it, and there's a relative easy entry to get involved, the money will come. The money will come. But that's not my primary objective.
I get that from day one with you, and I know I'm setting these questions up as if I want to be curious for the audience and the people that are getting to know you, Dennis, to get to know you, the real you. And this is why I think everyone that I've asked you to speak to, privately or in any way, shape, or form, or even those that were involved with you prior to me meeting you, and then to see what you've done in transforming so many people's lives has been inspirational. So I want to thank you for that. And I think that's, I know you're true to your heart, and I try to lighten you up like kind of tickle your belly a little bit and get you to laugh once in a while. Because we all need a good tickle and a good laugh because the
You
world's
you
full of
you
so much.
you are good at that, Kevin.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if I want to be known as a tickler, but maybe the laugh guy. But I want to talk about the world for a minute because economics and everything is always kind of tied in, but we're seeing things happening in our world with war. See, I'm doing the white collar thing. Calm down. I know. I know. Uh, with the war that's going on in obviously Russia, Ukraine, and then what we're seeing in the Middle East is not unprecedented. We know that it's been some historical, but the way that things are being done now compared to, and I'm not going to compare administrations. I think that's the worst thing we can do is right now, in the sense that we all know that there's deficits in everyone's space. But right now, currently, I'm talking about the fact, and there is some responsibility of the current administration to perform a job, but the reality is this has been setting up for thousands of years in the Middle East. What can be done there? What's your wisdom on that? Because we live in a pretty safe place in America, and we don't realize how dangerous the world is, and it's knocking on our door, in my opinion. Dennis, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I do, and I think again some of the same principles that are in Scripture, um, as relates to how we're to treat people individually, when it's combined in a bigger picture, it has a exponential effect. So what do I mean? Well, that means that the first step in bringing healing is a willingness to be transparent and honest when we've done something wrong. And not dodge it and make excuses. That is not something that we see leaders being willing to do in this country, nor do we see it happening in Israel, nor do we see it happening in Europe. So I'll give one simple example that to kind of take maybe some of the emotional edge off of what I'm saying is my sister is married to a German, well, he's a German national, but his mom is American. My sister's father-in-law was the German ambassador to Russia. So I went for my sister's wedding and brother-in-law's wedding. And at the reception, and this was in 2017, when, remember all the immigrants that were trying to come to Europe from Syria and Northern Africa, right? Remember that? In which they were putting up razor wire and so forth and so on. And he pulled me aside at the reception and said, Dennis, this immigration wave that we're struggling with in Europe, we caused that. And I looked at him and said, how do you mean? I've never heard that before. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, we pay our farmers to grow crops with no regard to what market prices are.
Yeah.
And
so is that not socialism? You're talking about a socialist?
Well, I'm not gonna label it anything. I just let me finish.
What's a socialist economy? There's at least for the economy piece.
Yeah, I think so. And so when they grow the crops, they have to sell it somewhere, and so they would dump it. They would dump the crops, and the impact was putting farmers in Africa out of business because because of the glut, the cost of production in an economy in which in Africa farmers are not being compensated by their governments, but they're having to live and die by market prices. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, that's what put the sugar business in Hawaii out of business when the U.S. government decided that they shouldn't be subsidizing farmers in the U.S. because whatever the market price is, so be it. And so the sugar business died within 3 to 5 years after that subsidy stopped. And the point that my sister's father-in-law was saying was, we caused that immigration. We caused the political instability. And now these people are wanting to go somewhere else where they can support their families. We should probably stop doing this, he told me. But if we did, there'd be riots on the streets in Europe, and so we're not going to stop it. Now, I lived in Hawaii and I watched the sugar business go under, and I've watched what the impact was on families. I watched the shift from good paying jobs to tourism jobs that don't pay as well. I watched families have to move into single family structures because that was the only way they could support each other. I watched people have to take more than one job in order to stay where they wanted to live.
Your passion is obvious, and I guess maybe I ask you, does any of that anger you? Do you get angry?
What I get angry about is when there's not an honest acknowledgement of us being contributing to the problems in other places,
Mm-hmm.
and simply deciding that we want to do whatever we want to do for our best interest and screw what happened to somebody else somewhere else as if it doesn't really matter. And rather than recognizing that, by and large, again, we didn't choose, and I tell this to my brother-in-law, we didn't choose where we were born, we didn't choose our ethnicity, we didn't choose our economics. And therefore, as a Christian, we should have a healthy sense of compassion, recognizing that everything where everybody is, it is not because of their doing any more than like my time working in South Carolina as a software executive, in which I saw the effect of when the textile industry left and what that did to the white community there, where they lost their standard of living. When steel left in places like Pennsylvania that you would know better than me, or seeing the coal industry die, and there's no history of government intervention to come up with new ways of retraining so that people can make an honest living and stay and live where they want to be.
I just listened to you talk. Go ahead. You can just keep going. Just keep going.
Oh,
This is why Dennis is you're humble, but this is why the people that knew that you should have written this book and to spread this word is so important. And you know what? I'm honored that I have a chance to actually listen and call you a friend because your wisdom is inspiring. And I say that
I don't know what wisdom it is, other than, again,
but your wisdom has been given to you to speak it. So
it's
accept it.
it's back to the point of the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated.
I know, but Dennis, I guess maybe at this point, what I'd like you to do is treat me like I'm asking you to treat me and just say thank you.
Well, obviously my words don't resonate very far because as a general rule, we now are looking at a divided country in which people do not
But
take.
your words do resonate in a time of divide. You're a voice of reason, and that is special.
Well, thank you very much.
The volume needs to be turned up. That's all.
I'm simply taking simple principles in scripture and applying them to what it means over how we look and how we respond and how we speak to people.
I mean, let's face it, right now, if we were in one of your country club locations that you and the wife and the kids go to, in one of your many vehicles, I'm sure out there, a lot of green vehicles, and like you came upon somebody like me, you would literally look at me and let's face it, I do not fit the country club style, right?
Well, I'm not a member of any country club, and the last car that I had, I held it until it was almost at 500,000 miles.
But you got 500,000 miles. What did you do? You have to put in special things? How'd you get 500,000 miles? Almost a million miles.
I
Wow.
took care of the car. I had a Toyota Camry, 1983. I came so close. It died at 497 when COVID.
Oh, didn't give you five. Oh. Did you feel like you lost the Super Bowl?
I almost felt like I lost a friend because now I wasn't having to drive so much. The gasket finally went out. I wanted to replace the engine, but finding an engine to replace that one was, they're just in short supply. So I'm one who, and I still have a Toyota Sienna minivan that has 296,000 on it right now.
Nice. There you go.
Right?
I could see you making that convert it into like a little mobile camper. You could sleep in it, get on the road, huh?
I could. You're right.
There you go. Because we do have to hit the road, Dennis. I mean, that's one of the things that I know that we've talked about, and for this interview, it's important. I want people to know is like I'm really excited because part of my ability to move forward is always about building relationships and sponsorships. And in whatever capacity, we have a brand relationship moving forward. We're going to be interviewing the next 12 interviews we put out. There's some big names that are coming on. And I don't try to make that as a sell point, but it wouldn't be possible for me if I didn't have those relationships with you. So I want to thank you publicly for feeling confidence in us and giving me, as I say, not the second, but more like the 15th chance in my life to get my life together. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
I enjoy every conversation we have.
Well, there's going to be many more with you, Dennis Williams, and of course, CashMap and the entire program that you put together. People scroll on down below, hit the button, subscribe to our platform. Of course, you want to go over to YouTube as well. You can click on to anything CashMap right here in the link that Mark's going to be putting down there. And Mark, our producer and sometime on the air talent, is handling everything behind the scenes for us now. We don't have Matt with us right now. Matt will be back in the seat soon, working on some field projects we're doing. Of course, the Be Better podcast with Kevin Allen on the Prayed Up Network. And Dennis Williams, you're the man who just sits in the hot seat. So I want to say a big high five. That's 10, actually. We'll give you a 10 to you out there. And it's great to smile. I want to end this particular interview and chance to talk with you about how important is laughter and smiles and happiness in our lives. And the Bible speaks of happiness, does it not?
Yeah, it speaks of happiness, and what a great medicine it is. And so I, my last point I would be is if you do visit my website, click on a little blue tab. It says sign up for a free webinar, and so that you can actually understand what the little gem that God showed me that can transform lives financially.
Right there in the little gem. Just subscribe below us right now and get onto that. And I'm hoping I'm going to be hosting a few of these seminars down the road. That is the plan. So stay tuned to that and more right here on the Prayed Up Network, the Be Better podcast with your hosts, Kevin Allen and Dennis Williams, right here tonight. Maybe there is a podcast brewing. Could you see these two characters coming together? Yes. Just a couple bald guys talking it out. There you go.